Hey guys, so Wally the Wonder Cornbread here, and today I'm going to try and explain the Congo Crisis, even though I am quite drunk. So, Congo Crisis started in 1960 when Congo declared independence from Belgium. Even though it wasn't quite ready for independence, there was a I can't remember his name, but I think it was like maybe a Swedish professor or something. He was in favour of Congolese independence, but he thought it would take until like the 80s before Congo was ready for independence because Congo didn't have the education infrastructure in place to have the correct politicians for it. Like basically Congolese, because of the way the education system worked, they weren't educated enough to actually run a government. But Congo got government anyway, independence anyway. So 1960, boom, Congo is a country. And immediately ran into problems. You have the president, Joseph Mobutu, who later changed his name to Mobutu Sese Seko, after he implemented Zionization, and the Prime Minister, Patrice Lumumba. Basically, didn't really work out for Lumumba because he was kind of too communist-y, kind of. So he got arrested, got shot, and he was burned in a barrel, and his teeth ended up on the coffee table of a Belgian policeman called George Swete. I can't remember his name exactly. Surname was Soete. I think there was an accent on the last E. Not entirely sure. I don't speak Belgian, or French actually. So yeah, that happened, and then you have Katanga decides to be its own country and break away from Congo from 1960 to 63, I think, under the leadership of Moise Tshombe. Not sure if I'm saying that right either. Like I said, I don't speak the language, so I might be saying that wrong. But yeah, put up a pretty good fight. Nearly bankrupted the UN actually. I read a book about it. It said the UN was about 2 months away from being completely bankrupt because of fighting against him and Katanga. Because it wasn't just him and the Congolese regular troops, like just normal Congolese troops that were with him. He also hired a lot of international mercenaries, and they knew how to fight pretty well. So the UN was really struggling with trying to contain, or not contain, but put down the Katanga rebellion, you could call it. So that happened, ended, and then you had peace relatively for a few years. You had a few prime ministers. Mobutu was still president for all this time, but you had a few prime ministers like Cyril Adula and what was his name? Joseph Kasavubu. And I think there was another one before them, but he was our prime minister under Lumumba. But his title wasn't prime minister, so he kind of doesn't really count. It's a bit of a weird one. But anyway, yeah, you got peace. You've got Mobutu in command, and then wabam, you've got the Simba Rebellion in 63 to 65, I think. And there's a few prime ministers. I think it might have been Kasavubu or Dula. I can't remember. Like I said, there were a lot of prime ministers in that time, so I get confused about who was in power when. But basically, they couldn't deal with it, and the ANC, the Army Nationale Congolese, the Congo Army, a lot of them were like superstitious because it's an African country. They still have like superstitious beliefs, and well, sorry, superstitious. I mean, I guess you could say religion is superstitious, but but they were scared of the Simba because they thought they had like voodoo powers, like witch doctor shit. So in the end, Mobutu called back Shombe, and Shombe called back his old mercenaries, and they managed to fight off the Simba rebellion. And they did a pretty good job. I mean, they won, so that was the end of that, like 65. Then Mobutu sent Shombe away because he said, "No, Shombe, you like the Western guys too much. I want African nationalism. Not nationalism because Africa isn't a country, but you know what I mean. Basically, Mobutu thought Shombe was too reliant on the West, so he kicked him out because he wanted Congo to be more African. And then later, in 66 to 67, I think, you had the mercenaries mutiny with Jean Scram. I think that's his name. JEANSCHRAMME. I think he was not really mercenary. He was living in Congo before the conflict started, and then he sort of became mercenary after all the warship started. So it's kind of odd on. He's like I think he viewed the Congo like as his home, but then he felt like it was being taken away from him. Your brother's just looking a lot because I'm drunk, so I'm not really explaining this shit too well. But yeah, the mercenary mutiny happened, ended in 67, I think, and that was pretty much the end of the Congo Crisis. Then obviously later you had the first and second Congo War in the 90s, but that wasn't part of the Congo Crisis. So anyway, yeah, that's my attempt at drunkenly explaining the Congo Crisis. Have a good one.